The wind rattled the windows of my apartment as I replayed Sloane's words in my mind. The drip of rain outside matched the ache in my chest. I stood in the empty space where our wedding invitations had once been neatly stacked on the console table, now replaced by a glossy brochure of reception halls I'd never stepped foot in with her. She had walked in that Tuesday, her coat still damp from the downpour, her eyes trained on the floor, never lifting to meet mine. "My parents think you're not good enough." "We need a break," she said, her voice steady but hollow. There was no tremor in her tone, no hint of the tears I'd expected. I swallowed, my throat tight, and replied evenly, "I understand." She blinked, surprised that I didn't argue, didn't plead. There was no furious retort, no desperate promise that I would change. She simply turned, the hem of her damp coat brushing the threshold, and left, without another look. The moment her footsteps faded down the hallway, I closed the door and sank against it, tracing the grain of the wood beneath my palm, as if I could pull back the memory of her departure. My heart hammered, but I refused to let the tears fall. Anger surged instead, a quiet, burning heat that fueled my next move. I crossed the room to the coffee table, where I'd left my laptop open. The cursor blinked in. The corner of an email draft I'd never finished, a message to the venue coordinator. Our wedding had been booked under both our names for months, the ceremony overlooking the cliffs, the reception in a pavilion draped in white chiffon, the champagne fountain that would have cascaded like liquid. Light. Yet before Sloane summoned me that afternoon, the cancellation had already been processed. Yesterday, in fact. According to the confirmation buried in my inbox, she had undone everything, without telling me, paused only long enough to deliver her breakup speech in person. I opened our joint account on my phone. The numbers stared back at me, $50,000 earmarked for wedding expenses, every line item meticulously planned, the caterer's deposit, floral arrangements, a live quartet, and that non-refundable fee for the vintage Rolls-Royce that would have driven us from chapel to reception. I felt her absence more acutely as I scrolled through the transactions. Each one, a reminder of how entwined our lives had become. Then, I saw it. My clean share, $25,000, still untouched, no charges, no holds, mine to reclaim. My fingers hovered over the screen. Then, I tapped transfer. I withdrew my portion, routing it to my personal savings. My pulse steadied, replaced by an unmistakable thrill of autonomy. I drafted a calm text. "I've withdrawn my half of the wedding fund. Let me know when you'd like to pick up your things." I tapped send. Sloane's break had just become permanent, and unexpectedly expensive. Minutes passed with only the hum of the refrigerator to keep me company. I felt neither guilt nor regret, only relief, that I had acted before the memory of her voice could loosen my resolve. I took a deep breath and stood, pacing the apartment now devoid of her laughter, her perfume, the sound of her heels on the hardwood floor. Our engagement portrait, on the wall, stared back at me, faces lit with joy and promise, oblivious to the storm brewing on the horizon. I let my eyes linger, imagining the future I'd built for us dissolving into the past. Then I reached up, twisted the frame free of its hook, and placed it face down in the closet. Symbolic gestures weren't my style, but I needed a clean slate. I sat at the dining table, my laptop open again, blank document, cursor blinking. I typed a single line. Chapter 1. The break was already booked. The words felt fitting, distilled to their essence. I reached for a glass of water, paused, fingertips brushing the smooth table as though it could anchor me to this new reality. Outside, the rain had let up, but the sky remained slate gray. It was quiet. Too quiet. No messages from Sloane, no calls from her parents demanding explanations, just the hum of the city, oblivious to the dissolution of our plans. A sudden knock jolted me from my thoughts. I opened the door to find the venue. Coordinator, holding a letter and a printed invoice. Her expression was sympathetic but taut with professionalism. "Mr. Carter, I'm so sorry about the cancellation. I have your refund confirmation here." She handed me the letter and statement. "Your withdrawal was processed yesterday." I nodded, scanning the seals and signatures. "Thank you," I said, closing the door softly behind her. The envelope settled in my hand. A tangible testament to the choice I had made. I was no longer half of a couple, but a man reclaiming his own story. That evening, I walked to the park near my apartment. The chill in the air was sobering. I ran my hand along the bench where Sloane and I once shared coffee beneath blooming cherry trees. A fleeting memory of warmth before the frost. I sat, unfolded the letter, and read every word. Refund approved. Commitment canceled. Funds released. No blame. No bitterness. Just a ledger. Settling accounts. I closed my eyes, inhaling the scent of wet grass and earth, rooting myself in this moment of transition. When I stood to leave, I felt lighter, unburdened by hopes that had crumbled. The rain-slick pavement glistened under the streetlights as I walked home, each step echoing a simple truth. Sometimes courage means accepting an ending before it spirals out of control. Sloane's break had ruptured the future we once imagined, but it had also given me a gift, a chance to define my life on my own terms. Free from the weight of someone else's expectations, I could rebuild, reframe my narrative, and discover what lay beyond the vestiges of a canceled wedding. As I unlocked the door to my apartment, I felt the first stirrings of something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in months. Possibility. And for the first time since that damp Tuesday, I smiled. And left her in ruins. I read it once, then twice, tracing my finger along the margins where handwriting scrawled, "Justice and repay me." But the ledger in my mind was immovable. Facts, dates, statements, an unbreakable chain of logic. Forwarded her letter to Rowan with a single line. "See what I mean?" His response came swiftly. "We'll address her emotional rhetoric in court, if necessary. But it won't change the chronology." By midweek, my legal inbox had enough threads to weave a courtroom tapestry. Emails, bank statements, venue, contracts, deposit refunds,